Jessica Noreika became an above-the-knee amputee from a tragic motorcycle accident in October of 2021. Jessica recently went through the surgeries necessary to receive the Osseointegration Implant, a new technology in prosthetics. Before her amputation, Jessica enjoyed a very active lifestyle, and as of February 2023, is now making the transition to walking with assistive devices. This new amputee is inspiring others with her perseverance and strength. It is our pleasure to welcome to the AMP'D UP211 podcast, Jessica Noreika. Hi, Jessica. So good to see you today. Thank you so much for being on the show. How are you?
I'm great. Glad to be here.
And where in the world are you so our listeners know what part of the country you're in?
Wisconsin.
What part of Wisconsin?
North of Milwaukee,
Okay.
West Bend.
Have you ever
Yeah.
heard of Oconomowoc?
Oh yeah, I used to live there.
No kidding.
I used to live there.
My
Yes.
parents used to have a house right on Oconomowoc Lake.
Okay. Yeah, I lived there for, I don't know how many years. My first daughter was actually, we lived there when she was born 27 years ago. So
No kidding.
very
Wow.
familiar with Oconomowoc.
Small world, right?
Yeah, that's a name that's butchered often, right?
Oh, it sure is. Yeah, I think I struggled. Well, my parents had a place there when I was a teenager, and I think I even struggled a little bit with Oconomowoc.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you see it written out, and you go, "Uh-oh,
Right.
how do
Yeah.
I say this?"
There's an O after every other letter is an O.
Right.
Yep.
And then I had to get used to roads that were just a single letter. Because when you go out there, I'm so used to street names and numbers and
Like County
stuff.
Road A, Highway O.
Exactly. And I thought, wow,
Yep.
this is
They're
bizarre.
all over here too. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's yep.
Have you eber been told that you have a Wisconsin accent?
Yes, all the time. I was actually raised in Lac du Flambeau on an Indian reservation, and I got razzed so much. The accent coming from an Indian reservation.
Mm.
I got so much crap when I moved to Milwaukee. It was unbelievable. So
Well, it is adorable. It's not a bad thing. I think it's very endearing. So, I wanna get into, I mean, there's so much to cover with your particular story, given that you have gone through a motorcycle accident and, now you're what I would consider to be a newer amputee and becoming a candidate for osseointegration, which is something that, as someone who wears a traditional socket, I'm fascinated by osseo, as many amputees are. Your
right.
particular scenario in terms of your injury and your amputation, if I'm understanding it correctly, I think this was probably the only option or the best option for what you were facing, correct?
It was the only option due to the fact that I think they knew right away when they amputated my leg that I was going to be a candidate for this just because of the length, how much femur bone I had left.
Yeah.
And because where I was found on the ground, the worst place possible, um, I went through a lot of infection, bone infection, things like that. So they had to, I believe, shorten my femur bone twice to try and stop that infection.
Mm.
So there is just enough femur bone there for them to be able to do this osseointegration. And my residual limb there's not enough there for a slip on.
Yeah, so a
I
traditional
think
socket is just not possible.
right. No.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was my only option.
Yeah. And when you went through these revisions, I guess it's probably could be, maybe not, hard to talk about when you've gone through a trauma like you did, and then surviving, which we all
Right.
come out of that, thankful I'm still here, but then
Right.
trying to understand, well, this isn't over. Like we have to make these modifications to your limb because we're nervous that some really bad things are happening. What was that process like for you in terms of getting that news after your accident?
As far as my only option,
Well,
or just what had happened in general.
well, I'm my surgery was not, it was elective in a sense. It was something that needed to happen. It was elective in a certain sense. I'm always very curious about trauma survivors because there's a sometimes a much bigger psychological component. So when a doctor
Right.
says to you, this is your only option, that doesn't necessarily cleanse you of all the feelings that you have associated with, I can't believe I'm going under the knife again.
Well, they actually, I believe, shortened the limb.
What's your dog's name?
Um,
What's your dog's name?
I got 3 of them.
Oh, three.
I got 3 of them. Yeah, 3
Mo,
little
Larry, and
ones.
Curly?
Yeah, right now, yes. So I woke up from the surgery without the leg, and I don't remember them shortening it
Hmm.
because I believe they had to do it, like, right away.
Yeah, so it
Um,
was it was almost like consecutive, like, oh, we got
right.
we got to go further. We got to go further. Hey everybody, today I want to talk about the Ross. The Ross is a liner cleaning system that I really feel compelled to talk about with our listeners. As most of you know that follow the podcast, I really don't do a whole lot of product endorsing, but I really feel that I want to get this out into the community. We all, as amputees, tend to struggle with cleaning liners, cleaning our gel liners. Whether you're below the knee or above the knee, we have these gel liners that have to stay clean. We don't want to develop skin infections, things of that nature. And having a fresh, clean liner seems to be one of the most important aspects of daily management of an amputee. And I was introduced to the Ross system through the company. And basically, this device is something where you can put your liner into this sort of tube, let's call it. And within 10 minutes, or if you want a deeper clean, within 20 minutes, you get a fresh, clean liner. And I am just ecstatic about this. It provides me the ability to have clean liners all the time. I never have to put a liner in the tub, in the sink. I never really have to use soap and water again. And it's really been just a wonderful product and experience in terms of what is available to amputees. So I want everyone to check out the Ross. It's a great system. Check it out. Here it is. The ozone generated by Ross eliminates germs and odor-causing bacteria that soap and water alone cannot, leaving prosthetic liners smelling fresh, sanitized, and ready to wear in as little as 10 minutes. Independent laboratory tested, the device rapidly eliminates 99.9% of bacteria that causes skin and soft tissue infections. The Ross sanitation process is compatible with all liner types, makes, and sizes. As a clinical grade device for home use, Ross is convenient and easy to operate at the point of care, in a clinic, or at home while one sleeps, eats, or watches TV. Check out the Ross today.
I just remember waking up, and my left leg hurting so bad. and I was very out of it. Obviously, wasn't really didn't know what was going on, and I for somehow I didn't question where I was. I really didn't question what happened or anything. I don't remember the accident, but for some reason I kind of knew where I was, I guess. I knew I was in a hospital. I guess I knew what happened, but my leg hurt so bad. And I asked my husband, apparently, the first time I asked, I don't remember it, but my husband told me, um, I said, why does my leg hurt so bad? And I must have passed back out again. All the drugs they had me on fentanyl, and I can't remember what else, but look, IV antibiotics. So And then I woke up again, and the nurse was in the room with my husband. And I asked again, I said, why does my leg hurt so bad? And I guess my husband grabbed the nurse and kind of pulled her down, and he was crying, she was crying, and he said, I can't tell her. And she said something like, honey, they had to take your leg or something. And I remember her saying that, and I turned my head to the left and I said, oh, what the F? That's what I said. That's how I reacted to it. I never cried about it. I never thought, what happened? What did this person do to me? I just turned in my head and that's what I said. And then after that, I think I spent 8 or 9 days in the ICU. And I remember, I think the last day and a half, I remember going down to the trauma unit, and then I was kind of told what happened, and from there it was just trying to handle the pain.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking, do you know who this person was? This person you were
Yeah,
involved in the accident? And where are you at psychologically with how this individual's changed your life?
I don't relate it to an individual. I um, focus on what I need to do, how just being able to live and function is hard enough every day.
Yeah.
All the ways around things and stuff like that. I believe I was told he wanted to meet me at one point, and I said no, I don't want it to trigger anything.
Yeah.
First of all, because honestly, I'm fine. I don't.
You don't
I'm
need
not
him in
mad.
your orbit to get
No,
closure?
no, no, not at all.
Yeah.
I need to just enjoy my life.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to relate this to a person,
Yeah.
I guess. Um I'm not I'm not mad. I don't live depressed. Um life is hard enough. I just want to try and stay positive and happy and take care of what I need to take care of and just be able to function during the day.
I appreciate your honesty, and it's certainly an extraordinary coping skill that you've managed to engineer to
I've
survive
been
this.
asked that a lot.
Yeah, to
A
survive
lot.
this, because so often someone might say, "Well, don't you want to say something? Don't you want to, feel like there's something you need to sort of get off your chest?" And I always say, wouldn't that give that particular component to this a lot of power over me? Like suddenly I'm almost like giving power to what happened rather than just fueling my recovery and my adjustment to this new life. If I focus on
Right.
that and dedicate all my energy to that, because really, when someone causes a situation like the one that's happened to you, and they're looking for some kind of closure, relief, forgiveness, it's not your job to provide that.
No.
It's not you are not, governed in a way that requires you to give that to someone. You are the victim in this situation. So you get to decide how you're going to move forward.
Right. I and the other thing is he didn't go out that morning, intending on almost killing somebody.
Yeah.
So I think that helps me with, I'm not mad at this person. Again, I don't know him. I don't want to know him.
Yeah.
Um, it was an accident, and you know, unfortunately, it was me at the bad end of the accident. So yeah, I just trying to. I honestly, I really don't think about the person
Yeah.
that did this to me hardly ever.
It could be, processing that as an unfortunate event that occurred in your lifetime
Yeah, right.
and not letting it necessarily define you, but also providing you a true test of your resiliency and how your plan is to now live this very, very, positive kind of life. I meet, up until I became an amputee, this was quite rare, but now that I am one and have been for 6 years, I do meet many amputees that became, you know, uh, suffered limb loss through a motorcycle accident. And it's sort of a remarkable thing and something that my curious mind goes to, what would you want the public to know in terms of, on the roads, safety, driving automobiles around people on motorcycles? I, admittedly, before I became an amputee, honestly, Jessica, I never really thought about it. I really didn't. And now that I am an amputee and I meet so many people that have gone through limb loss as a result of the type of accident you had, I see a motorcycle and I just get away. I do whatever I can to not only get away from them, but also
Give them their space.
give them their space. But also, I even find myself trying to govern others from getting
Yeah,
too close to them. Like, you have to understand, like, they're in a vulnerable situation. They're not
yeah,
surrounded by all this, this steel and
right,
fiberglass the way we are.
right, right.
They're very exposed. So, I mean, what would you want to put out into the public space to say, hey, maybe think about this the next time you see someone on a motorcycle?
Well, it was you see the signs everywhere, watch for motorcycles, and that's how it happened. And apparently, is what the person repeatedly said over and over after he hit me. I just didn't see her. I didn't see her. I just didn't see her. And I wasn't a passenger. I was actually, driving the motorcycle on my way to work. It was 7:30 in the morning. Um, Completely the other person's fault. I was fully dressed, helmet, always wore a helmet,
Yeah.
always. It was October, so it was going to be a nice day. And I thought, there's not many nice days left to ride. So I'm like, I'm going to go to work and come home. Both, I looked at the weather and it was going to be nice both ways. So, helmet, leather jacket, gloves. Luckily, thank God, I was fully dressed. But I would just I would say is just watch for motorcycles. Just watch for them.
So be alert.
Make eye contact.
Yeah.
That was what we were taught, when I was getting my license. Always make eye contact.
Yeah.
And I was told that I don't remember saying this to the sheriff that showed up, but apparently I said, "I looked right at him. I looked right at him." And then
Yeah.
I kind of passed out again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And how long had you been an avid cyclist before you had the accident?
I had my license for 22 years.
Wow.
I
That's
was on my,
it's a long
yeah,
run. That is a
yep,
long run. And I know it's very much it's a culture, it's a lifestyle, and so many people are motorcycle, enthusiasts, and it can be an incredibly beautiful leisure activity. It's very
yeah,
liberating for a lot of
yes, it
people,
is. Yep,
and it's a place that some go to get in touch, with a part of their spirit and their soul that they can only feel when they are on a bike. And I get it. I
it's
do.
very true.
I do.
It's very
And
true.
yeah, and I hear people in those communities speak about it in a very, very passionate way. I
Right,
have childhood friends that, do Sturgis, they do all kinds of stuff, and they talk about it in a very, very romantic kind of way. It's very important to them. So, you know, your transparency is appreciated. So often these things can be pretty difficult to talk about because it taps into something that, can sort of bring to the surface a lot of
right,
a lot of difficult feelings that sometimes we just want to put away. But I can
right,
tell you by bringing that to the audience, you're helping a lot of people. You're helping a lot of us that are in those dark spaces, that are struggling with whatever trauma they may have experienced,
right.
and are now part of this club that I don't think anyone wants to be a
No,
part of.
no, no,
I've never
definitely
I've
not.
I've never had anyone ask me, where do I sign up to become
Yeah,
one of you?" It's definitely not, something people desire, and
right.
but here we are. I want to get in more into the osteo part of your journey
Sure.
because, again, I wear a traditional socket, and osseointegration seems to be coming on fast and furious in terms of its availability,
Right,
the amount of practitioners that
right.
are employing it now.
Yeah.
Years
Very
ago.
few
Yep, yep,
in the United States anyway, right
yeah.
now. Yeah, yeah.
So can you walk us through your experience post-op, and then some of those phases of getting evaluated, and then obviously getting the implant?
Right. So there were two stages. I was completely, none of it happened while I was in the hospital. Um, I did, however, receive the TMR surgery. I believe it's targeted muscle reassignment surgery. I believe that's what it means. Um, so I was able to get that right before I left the hospital to help with the phantom pain. So like I said, there's two stages. Stage one is the placement of the fixture. So I believe so. I was in the hospital for 4 weeks. That was so I got out approximately November 16th, 17th, or something like that. My first surgery was in April of 22. The accident was in 21. So April of 2022, I had the placement of the fixture, and it's just like a hollow threaded piece of metal that they actually put inside my femur bone. So they actually scraped out the inside of the femur bone and used some bone grafting, and they put it all back in the middle of this fixture. So your skin, or not your skin, but everything like adheres to that metal that's inside the femur. It becomes part of your femur bone. So then I had to wait 3 months in July. I believe it was July. I did the stage 2 was the soft tissue work, which was debulking of my limb. Um, they had to take a lot of skin off so none of it would hang over the abutment when uh, the part that sticks out of your leg is called the abutment, and that's what attaches to the leg. So they don't want too much skin or anything hanging over that. They want it clear to help prevent infection.
Yeah.
So Dr. Nielsen, fortunately, at Fredert, uh, I was lucky enough to be at that hospital where Dr. Nielsen is a oncology surgeon and assistant professor at the hospital. I know he teaches in other countries, so I was extremely fortunate to have him right there. Very lucky. So, um, stage 2 then was attaching the abutment, and then they actually take part of your leg. For me, they took a back, like a flap, if you want to say, and um, they pretty much scrape every like the layers of skin down to, I believe, the last 2 layers, I think, and then they cut a hole and then they lift that up and put it over that abutment. So that's how your skin forms around the abutment. And that was the stages of surgery, and not fun. Uh, um,
Those stages,
recovery.
yeah, those stages, what is that course of time?
So April was the stage 1, and I believe July was stage 2.
Okay, so this could be over the course of 4 to 6 months that you're
Mhm. Oh,
sort of
yeah,
getting all those components, pieces put together, and this is
right.
well before we're even donning a prosthesis.
Oh, yeah. When I can't even remember how long, 2 to 3 months post-surgery after this phase 2 is when, I went in for my training leg. They call it a duck foot pretty
Mm,
much,
yeah.
and it's just, knee level. So, I first had to start bearing weight on that femur bone uh, by leaning on a scale. So 20 pounds of pressure for 2 weeks, go up to 40 pounds of pressure for a couple weeks, 60 pounds of pressure. So it's very long. You got to build up that femur bone again because it hasn't been used in over a year.
Yeah.
So um, it took quite a while, and then until you actually are, I was able to lean all my weight on that scale, on that um, training leg. And then I started crawling. They had me crawling to get used to the motion
Mhm.
of, you know, something attached to your femur bone that's not the rest of your leg,
Yeah.
moving, you know, crawling with it forwards and backwards. I had to do that for months.
Mm.
And then with that training leg on, using, the rubber bands you get in physical therapy, strengthening my hip and getting that femur bone used to weight and resistance in each direction. So I would lift up to the side, I would have to lift back, I would lift, go in. So it was a lot.
It's
It
a
was a
pro
lot, but
it yeah,
yeah,
it's a huge
it's a
process.
long
It's a
process.
huge process, and given that process, that struggle, everything that you've gone through, and please don't take this as just, like a flippant, comment. What do you say when someone just says, "Why, Jessica? Just stay in a wheelchair."
Well, no one has said that to me. So,
Well, don't
uh
don't don't be surprised
yeah.
if someone does.
Yeah. I
Like, why go through Jessica, why go through all of this? This seems so hard. Why not just stay in a chair?
Well, the thing about that is everybody that I know that knows me, very active, very active, worked out, bicycling, running. I was a runner. I worked out at Planet Fitness 3, 4, 5 days a week, walking my dogs every day, 2, 3 miles, um, extremely active. So that was also my husband talked with the surgeons and the head of the PT department at Freighter from the beginning and kind of, I guess, warned them that this might be very, very hard for me
Yeah.
because of how active I was.
Yep.
And it just seemed to light a fire under them. I- it's really hard to explain. We had nurses telling my husband and I, Dr. Del Toro doesn't normally come up and visit patients, before they even know what's going on in their hospital room, still in the ICU. So when you hear people say, "Oh, the hospital, the nurses and the doctors were so great," I can't even tell you the above and beyond that I received. It was I miss them.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss them. I love going back to see them.
Yeah, those teams of people are critical in us surviving
They
these
sure
these
are.
tragedies. And I'm in a similar situation where um I credit them directly for my own successes. And I do believe that the sort of synergy and energy that gets created between you and your team is really a beautiful it's sort of a beautiful exchange because the more that I do and the more that I
Right.
achieve,
Right.
they see that as their victory.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So
100%.
when I see my orthopedic doc, or I see anyone that was on my original team in terms of my I had an infectious disease doctor, when
Yep.
I
Had
see
one of those.
yeah, when I see these people now,
Yeah.
I see their eyes light up
Yeah.
because to them, I'm like their trophy. Like, wow,
Absolutely.
we did that. Like, we kept this person alive. They're living their life and they're
Yeah.
happy. And
Right.
and I think for some of the talented medical people out there, there's a big thank you there that, hey, um, thank you for your service. Thank you for, all the time that you dedicate to people that go through these struggles and come out on the other
Right.
side,
Right.
trying to live their best lives, live out their best lives. And
Right.
I have been asked that question, why, why go through all that, and why not just get accustomed to a wheelchair, and things are accessible now, and people, there's this perception like people in wheelchairs, they get a lot of, kind of like benefits. They get a lot of little perks and things of that nature. And my response is always the same, which is that does not represent my best life. My
No.
my best life is still yet to come, and this will not preclude me from doing all the things that I want to do and live out my dreams. And when I visualize myself, because we all have that self-image that we project,
Right.
when I think of myself in my mind's eye, I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm
No.
I'm up, I'm moving, I'm walking, I'm doing the things that I love, and everything for me is a pursuit of that, and I don't see it any other way. So
Right.
I admire someone like yourself that has gone through what you have and going through the level of amputation that you have. And thank goodness we have the technology to put you in a
Right,
position and a trajectory that
right,
is going to create a new life.
right.
It's I always say it's different, but it's the same.
Yeah.
It's just
Oh, yeah,
different.
it's different, right.
Yeah.
I mean, the things I used to be able to do, the stair stepper was my favorite. Um, like I said, running, the row machine, running outside, being on a regular two-wheel bike. I don't get depressed and sad about that stuff that I can't do anymore either. I focus on, wow, I can do the elliptical again. I have elliptical mode on my Autobot app on my phone.
Yeah.
I can do the elliptical. I did it 30 minutes the other day. I'm up to 30
Congratulations.
minutes. Yes. I have a trike. I have a three wheel bike that I can ride outside.
Isn't that awesome?
The feeling of
Wind through your hair?
the wind in my hair the first time I got on that bike, and that was before I got my prosthetic. That was just with one leg.
Yeah.
Now, y I don't know if anyone has ever tried this, but, so before I got my prosthetic, I was back to the working out,
Yeah, I was
once
as
I
well. I
felt
was
better.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, you gotta get your foot in that pedal at Planet Fitness so that the strap covers, so
Yeah.
you're in there secure, and you gotta lift and push, lift and push. I think I made it 2 minutes the first time,
Yeah.
but I gradually, got myself up, and, for a long time, the row machine was my best friend.
Yeah.
Which is okay because it's a full body, workout, and I
Yep.
just with one leg, I was rowing, and I get the looks, you part the seas, like I think we talked about once before, people just get out of your way. Um, and when I got my leg, when I was practicing walking on it, I did so many passes up and down all that equipment with my crutches on with my prosthetic on. Didn't care, I don't care who looks at me, I don't care. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
It looks different. I can't blame people for looking, and I don't. I never get upset or mad at people, and kids definitely say the darndest
They
things,
certainly do.
so
Especially my granddaughter.
Yeah, well, my grandkids are very, very young, so that's all they're gonna know grandma. So they're gonna know grandma with the prosthetic leg, and
Yeah, my
well, that's
granddaughter
okay.
is my granddaughter as well because she's 4 and I've been an amputee for 6 years. And
Okay.
very often she will slowly approach me and she'll get really close and say, "Grandpa, can I play with your robot leg?" And then she sort of walks off with it and
Oh, yeah, there she goes.
it becomes yeah, I'm going to need that if I'm going to be
Right.
able to get off the couch.
Right. Yeah, right. Yep.
Or what's even more fascinating is when I see her trying to put it on.
Oh my.
I'm like, "Honey, that
Yeah,
that
that's
that
not gonna work.
that's not going to fit you."
No.
Cuz in their
No.
mind it's cool and it's different
Yeah, right.
and yeah, they're full of all kinds of interesting curiosities. I can tell, and I do appreciate you sending me photos of you and and your husband and your family. I can tell that you have such a strong support system, and
Oh,
that's such a critical part of this process. And
very
I
blessed.
guess where I'd want to explore a little bit without getting too personal is relationship. One or the other in a marriage goes through something like this, and that presents a lot of challenges in trying to navigate that together. And I'm not even necessarily talking about all the physical parts of a relationship, but there's so many emotional components to, you know, how do we approach this in the everyday? How do we get through that? And the
Right.
only reason I think I want to talk about that with you is because you seem to be doing it very, very gracefully. And I know there's a lot of amputees that are married and then they're not married anymore.
Right. Right.
I happen to be one of those, and there are challenges there. Some partners
Right.
can't do it. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. They can't. It's too
Hmm.
much, and that's unfortunate. But at the same time, it's a reality, and very often new amputees will call me and say, how do me and my spouse, navigate this? And I have to say, well, I'm not really one to talk. I was married before my amputation, and I am now no longer married. So, I mean, what do you see as the secret sauce? What do you how do you feel in those spaces of your life?
Honestly, my husband Jay, it was before I left the hospital, the house was ready for me. He was so busy putting up like handles all over and getting the bathtub ready, getting me a shower seat with a handle that I can, you know, something to grip when I get. I mean, everything was set. He his employer, he was at my bedside every day for, I think there was only 4 days out of the 4 weeks I was there, he was not there. Um, the hard part is when he had to go back to work and do everything, he had no problem taking care. He did the best job, and I had help, with my daughters, his daughters. We had schedules. One girl was with me for his daughter Madeline was with me the first week I came home. They had to do the antibiotic IVs into my I can't remember what it's called now, but directly into my body. The following week was someone else sitting with me, and then the week after was someone else, and then I have a 22-year-old daughter that is still at home. She's helped me a lot, and there's still things that I can't do, that my husband has to still take over and do. He just does it because it just has to be done. I don't know how else to explain it. He gets it.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to live as close to what we used to be able to live, he knows he's going to always probably have to do more.
Do you
And
do you,
he's totally fine with that.
yeah, would you even say that in some ways this has brought you closer?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz it
Yeah,
sounds
cuz
that way.
yeah, he knows that I need him, and he knows how much I appreciate everything else he has to do. We have 3 dogs. They're little, but, you know, I can't walk them by myself. I used to walk them every day. Now that's something he has to come home after working a 14, 16-hour day and do now. Um, a lot more things around the house he has to do. We used to do everything together. I mean, we planted trees together out in our yard, stuff like I was a very hands-on with everything we had to do around the house.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things that I can't help him with now.
Yeah.
And, oh, it frustrates me, but, you know, I
But
just, well,
but
let's
I think
call,
that yeah, I think sometimes these situations can truly bring out the best in relationships where this unbreakable bond gets created because you went through that struggle together. It was certainly not painful in the same way
Right.
that you were in pain, but for him it was just as painful in other ways. But
And seeing me suffer was so hard
yes,
for
and
him.
that's what I'm referring to. To see someone you
Yeah.
love going through a trauma can be one of the most painful things you can ever experience. When I I'm a kidney transplant recipient, so when I went into end stage renal failure and doctors were saying, "Yeah, this is it, man. You got everything in order. You know, this might be the end." It really wasn't I really wasn't reflecting so much on my mortality as I was so busy and consumed with the terror and the pain that I was witnessing with my family and friends, and
Mhm.
seeing the people that you care about so incredibly
Right,
worried about you.
right,
It's not, for me, it was
right.
very difficult to digest.
And
And
how they act when they see you after this, right? I had so many friends that just didn't wanna come over because they didn't know, I have a very I'm very positive, uh, joking all the time. I swear like a sailor. I'm keeping
salty,
it
are you?
very under yeah, well, I'm keeping it very under control for this, but, um, I just I'm very free,
Yeah.
and people were a lot of my friends were afraid, and one of them, said that to me when she came over. She's like, "I was afraid to come over." I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah.
And when she first came over and we started talking, and I was joking about, oh, I make jokes about my leg missing, and oh, it's terrible. And some people even are like, "Oh my god," like, "I can't believe you said that." But,
Yeah,
my husband says stuff.
I've done a
Yeah.
few showstoppers myself, and
Yeah.
very very often people will. I do recall a couple occasions when I first had my amputation, still in a wheelchair, and just kind of managing my limb, waiting for it to shrink down in size because
Right.
it's this enormous thing when you're
Right. Right.
first
Yeah.
when you're post op, and a friend of mine saying how you doing, and he looked at my leg and he said, "There's no chance of that growing back, right?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of yeah, right. That's the kind of stuff that goes on. My husband and I will be somewhere, and he'll start walking and he's like, "Come on, catch up." And or "Why don't you run and go get this for me?" And just it's I'm very light about the whole thing.
You
It's
have to be.
Well, yeah, and my friend was like, I was afraid once I started joking. I who knows what comment I made about my leg or what I was saying, but she started laughing, and she's like, that's when she told me I was so afraid to even come over here, but she's like, I'm glad to see that it's still you.
Absolutely.
It's still you.
Absolutely. And
Now we just have more to talk about and joke about,
yeah.
right?
Well, my girlfriend Sarah, I had sent her, a funny comic, a funny amputee, little meme comic,
Right.
and she said, "Wow," she said, "Do you see these often?" And I said, "Honey," I said, "I have literally hundreds of these in my phone. I I pass them around amongst other amputees. They send them
Where do you find them?
they send them to me. I send
Oh,
them
okay.
I send them to them, and you can find these all over the community groups. I think there's even a
Okay.
Facebook group that's called Amputee Humor or something.
Oh, okay.
But she said, would you mind sending some of these to me? So, so just about every day, I send her at least 3 or 4 very, very funny, inappropriate,
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
um,
absolutely. Those are the
totally.
best.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
it's a romp, and I really enjoy it, and I find it to be, one of those ways to lighten the load of
right.
sometimes what feels very heavy, and it sort of pushes you down, and you say, "You know what? This is my situation, and I'm not gonna lose my sense of humor over it."
No,
And it allows me to approach life in a very, very happy way and keeps me in the
right.
right mindset. I know we got to wrap up soon. Where do you see yourself? Let's say if someone said to you 5 years from now, Jessica, wh- what version of you is that going to be in 5 years?
Well, I know I'll be done working. I told myself at 55, I'm gonna be done working. So I will be done working.
Yes.
Yes. Hopefully, I'm still right now with my prosthetic. I'm at the point where I'm using a cane, but around the house I can actually hobble with
Hmm.
nothing because it's flat, familiar ground.
Yep.
So I want to be able to walk my dogs again. I'm going to continue doing any kind of fitness thing I can. Um, and just, I mean, it's just going to get better. I just want
Absolutely.
it to get better. I just want to live. I know I'm not going to be able to do everything I was able to do before, but I want to be able to do what I'm able to do really good
Yes.
and just have fun and enjoy my dogs, enjoy my family, enjoy my husband, be able to go and do stuff, travel a little more.
Yep.
Um, I just want to stay happy and
Yeah.
positive.
And sharing your story and coming from this very grounded place, which I appreciate, how you're approaching things. It's really this no nonsense. Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, right,
I'm going to
right,
pursue the best version of
right.
myself in the
Absolutely.
now. And
Right,
so many people in this community very much need, desperately need to hear those words, because
right,
for so many out there, they 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 think it's over. And I tell
right,
them it's only beginning. This is the
right,
beginning. This is just a new
right.
chapter. It's a challenging one, but you will find that if you engage, the rewards are extraordinary because
I tell you, nothing, yeah,
it's a whole new lease on life.
nothing feels better than an absolute stranger coming up to you and saying, "You just inspire me.
Yep.
You just
And
inspire me." Friends saying, "I just, you're so, you're so inspiring. I respect you. I have so much respect for you." Things like that, or and then people say, "Well, I would have never been able to be, how you are with what's going on." And I just, you got to say to them, I don't know. I mean, if you're put in a situation and you have to just survive,
mhm.
you don't know what you're capable of.
Yeah,
So,
we don't know until we're challenged. And
right, right,
true forward movement, I always say that personal power, forward movement in life comes from struggle. When things are
right.
going
It
great,
does. Unfortunately, it
yeah.
does.
When things are going
Yeah,
great and everything's going my way,
yeah.
I'm usually not evolving much. But man,
Right,
when
right,
something really difficult shows up and I'm challenged and I have to stare down, Mount Everest, so to speak, that's when the true improvement, movement,
right,
all of those great things start to happen for me.
right,
And
right.
I appreciate you sharing your story. You're going to inspire so many people by them tapping into what you're doing and being able to relate to your experiences. Uh, Jessica, again, Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to have you. My name is Rick Bontkowski. This is the Amped Up 211 podcast. I want to wish everyone health and happiness, and we will see you next time.